You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host, Keith Angle, on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talk right here on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. How are you? Beautiful day in East Greenbush, and we are the first live streaming podcast from East Greenbush, New York. Oh, guys, it's going to be a beautiful day today until it rains, until it storms. Good morning, Dave Guyette. Good morning again, Dave Guyette. Hope you guys are doing well. We got a lot to talk about today. I want to thank all the groups again. If I share this to your groups, I'm going to have hockey news with Jim Biringer from The Last Word on Hockey. He'll be on in a little bit, just a few minutes. We're going to have lots of baseball talk. We're going to have some NFL and college football, NFL talk, hopefully some NBA talk. If we don't get to it, we'll get to it tomorrow, I guess, or next week, I guess. Nothing that won't hold there. I do want to talk about the draft a little bit, but we got so much to talk about with Jim and free agency and hockey. We've got the Major League Baseball trade deadline to talk about. Good morning, Bill Pulver. If I didn't say good morning to Carlos, good morning, Carlos. Good to see all you guys this morning. If we do get into the NFL, we got a few things to chat. We will get into the NFL. We got a couple things to chat about there. And if we get into the NBA, it'll be about the draft and the Westbrook trade. And we'll see. We're going to get into Anthony Rizzo. Yes, off to a great start with the Yankees. We'll talk about that in a little bit after we talk with Jim Biringer. The Mets, 20 comebacks this season. Yeah, we'll talk about the Mets. We'll talk about all of their trade moves at the deadline. Kind of an outlook for everybody going forward. And more. Guys, next Friday, by the way, Louis Tiant, former great Major League pitcher, started with the Indians. His career took a downward swing, and he had a rebirth. Pitched with the Twins for a year, then with the Boston Red Sox, where he's probably best known. Pitched in one of the best World Series in baseball history, the best World Series in my lifetime, the 1975 Reds and Red Sox Classic. Just a great story. Actually pitched with the Yankees after the Red Sox, which was a little weird, but I'm a baseball fan. I love great pitchers. In my mind, Louis Tiant belongs in the Hall of Fame. So we'll have him on Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern time. Talk more about Rojas later, Carlos, I promise. Also, guys, while we're waiting for Jim, I want to tell you, we're going to talk. We got so much to talk about today. I don't even know if I'll get it all in, as I said. I'll probably try to keep some stuff that will have a shelf life until next week. Until then, I do want to let you know, too, I'll have a promo coming out here in the next, probably today or maybe tomorrow, for a new show that we're starting on TGI Sports Talk and Northeast Streaming Sports called TGI Sports Talk's College Football Huddle. Be live on Wednesday nights at 7. And we'll talk all the news in college football. Good morning, Rick Sherlock. Good morning, John Gonzalez. Yeah, good turnout this morning. So, yeah, the new show will be Wednesdays at 7 p.m. TGI Sports Talks College Football Huddle. All the big stories. There's no shortage of stories in college football, as we know. We'll recap the previous weeks. We'll look at the rankings. We'll preview the big games of the upcoming week. It's going to be fun. We'll take your comments, and just like we do here, we're going to have a lot of fun with that show. What else we got here? We have a new view. Amanda, good morning. How are you today? You may have seen Amanda in the room before. So anyway, guys, we're going to get started because hockey just won't wind down. The NHL is trying to I think, do what the NFL does and stay in the headlines as much as they can. So we're going to talk about some big stuff going on this week, some big news. Obviously, the big news is the free agency, which Jim will get us up to date on. And we've got a few other topics to chat about. So let's bring in Jim Biringer from The Last Word on Hockey. Good morning, Jim.
Hey, good morning, Keith. How you doing today?
I am doing fabulous. It's a beautiful Sunday morning here. Lots of stuff going on in the sports world, obviously, and certainly no lack of that in the NHL this week.
No, NHL taking a lot of headlines this week with free agency and everything that happened before free agency coming through the entry draft. It's funny. It's Major League Baseball's trade deadline, and it seems to get buried in the back pages because of what's going on with college football, hockey, NFL. Big names have moved in baseball, but you know what? It gets buried because the NHL is just rolling along because of what happened with the schedule this year.
It is very interesting. As I said, the NFL kind of started this corner, a 12-month news cycle, basically, right? And all the other sports are trying to capture the same kind of magic. In the NHL, there's a good morning from John Gonzalez for you and from Rick Sherlock. But the NHL is doing a good job of doing it themselves. Let's start with free agency. There's a couple other stories I want to chat about briefly today, too. But let's talk about the free agency. What were the biggest moves you saw this week and with the biggest impacts, and I guess what surprised you?
So obviously a lot of stuff predictable right off the bat. Let's get it out of the way. Alex Ovechkin, obviously the day before free agency starts, he signs his big deal with Washington. He stays there for 5 more years at $9.5 million. No surprise, the captain of the Capitals is staying there. The captain of, we've been talking about Landeskog. I was talking about it on other shows as well. Gabriel Landeskog, the captain of the Colorado Avalanche, signed his big 8-year deal to stay in Colorado. But the thing is, they didn't have enough money to keep, Philip Grubauer. So he signed, which was shocking to me because, we had talked about Seattle's draft last week, and they had picked 3 goalies, but they go out and sign Philip Grubauer to a 6-year deal, which means one of their goalies became expendable. So they sent Vitek Vanacek back to Washington for a draft pick because that's who they selected. So the Capitals really didn't lose nothing. A lot of teams, everybody's talking about a flat cap. Well, you wouldn't know it by the way the money was being thrown around on Wednesday and the years and the terms. Obviously Toronto loses Zach Hyman. He goes to Edmonton. They're trying to fill that role by committee, bringing in Andre Kasha, Nick Ritchie. So they'll see if they can do that. Tampa Bay, again, figures out a way with the cap. They move out Tyler Johnson over to Chicago, opens up LTIR space when they bring in Brent Seabrook. They signed Corey Perry, who's been in the Stanley Cup final on the losing end for, 2 years now. So they bring him in for more depth. The big thing to me, I saw, Marc-Andre Fleury from Vegas getting traded to Chicago, kind of blindsided him a little bit. I mean, they say, Kelly McCrimmon said he was on the trade. He was finalizing the trade call, trying to get to Fleury before everything got leaked. But Fleury goes to Chicago, where he may or may not report. He may or may not retire. That's an ongoing situation there with Marc-Andre Fleury. He's going to take some time to figure it out. I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up back in Pittsburgh to finish out his career. Maybe Chicago eats some salary there, so Pittsburgh can, keep him in. That's not official yet, though.
Official.
That's not official yet. Zach Parise going to the Islanders. Everybody knows he's going there. Same with Kyle Palmieri. It appears Palmieri's going to re-sign with the Islanders. Lou has not announced those signings yet. I think he's also working on Casey Cizikas, trying to get him a new contract. Seattle sniffed around on Cizikas. But Lou knew that if there had to be something in the works for him to keep Clutterbuck and Martin protected, so he knows Cizikas is right around the corner. I wouldn't be shocked like this sometime this week he announces everybody gets signed. But a lot of things happened this week. Winnipeg stirred up some defense. Philly got better on their defensive end as well. Ryan Suter goes to Dallas. A lot of players who got traded early on, like Sam Bennett and Buchnevich and Garland, all those guys signed new deals with their teams. So, like I said, a lot of money rolling around. And speaking of guys being traded, New York Rangers picked up Ryan Reeves. We had talked about the Rangers' toughness early on in the show, back, a few months ago when everything went down. I like this move by the Rangers to pick up Ryan Reeves.
Yeah, that's a big move. And while we're talking about that, we'll switch gears just for a second since you brought up the Rangers. I mean, because everybody's keeping tabs on Jack Eichel with the Sabres and their standoff out there, and the Rangers keep being mentioned, at least in the New York papers anyway, as a major player if he were to be moved. What do you see happening here? Is he gone with the Sabres, number one, and are the Rangers a viable option?
I mean, he continues to be linked to the Rangers. I don't know if they have the assets they want to give up. Buffalo's asking a lot right now. They want a first-round pick. They want a top prospect, a player that can play now, and one or two other pieces. You know who's going back if Eichel comes. It's Biringer. He's got to go back to Buffalo to make the money work. Obviously he's in need of a new contract soon. Buchnevich got traded to St. Louis. He re-upped for several years at a nice term for him. Ryan Reeves is a great pickup. They brought him in. They brought a lot of toughness in, the Rangers did, with Patrick Nemeth, Greg McCabe, now Reeves. Now you have Sammy Blais with Barclay Goodrow. Rangers are definitely tougher to play against. If there's a
new identity for this team,
a real new identity, and we know most likely who's going to be squaring off game one when Washington plays New York, opening night of the 2021-22 season. Right. Ryan Reeves and Tom Wilson. But as far as Eichel goes, he is a fit for the Rangers. It's just what they want to give up. Now, with that being said, everybody thought Matt Duchene needed to be moved right away to, the toxic locker room when he was with Colorado. Joe Sakic waited and waited and waited and took his time until he got what he wanted, but he had to get a third team involved to get what he wanted. It was the Duchene trade for Nashville and Ottawa. So if there's a way to do it, maybe Buffalo tries to find a third team to pick up some salary, get a piece or two here. Boston is now starting being linked because Jack Eichel's from that area. Minnesota's still involved. It doesn't appear the Kings want any part of it. The big issue is, as we saw over the weekend, is his neck injury. He didn't get surgery. They tried to just rehab it. Now he needs surgery. It's like a whole back and forth between the medical staff of Buffalo, independent doctors. It's just an ugly mess with that team and with Eichel, and I think he needs to be moved out. But again, Kevin Adams can wait because the ball's in his court and he has all the leverage.
It's dangerous for any team takes him on with that injury question mark over his head, of course, and to give up a king's ransom for him at the same time. So
exactly, a lot of teams are scared away because of the injury. Like with Tarasenko out in St. Louis, the Blues have to move him to clear salary cap space. However, the shoulder injury, the guy has not stayed healthy for the last two seasons. And he's had a shoulder injury. New Jersey's kicking tires on him, but they don't want to give up a king's ransom either for a guy who's injury prone as well. Yeah. So we'll see. But I like what the Rangers did. I like what New Jersey did, bringing in Dougie Hamilton, the big fish, the big defensive piece. First time, Devils have had a number one defenseman in a long, long time. So that's really good. Hamilton will bring stability to that backhand, move some pieces around. They can finally have some depth there. Jonathan Bernier comes in. The goalie market was really crazy on Wednesday. So many goalies moving around.
Yeah, let's stay at. Well, before we move on, I'm going to try to get a couple of comments up here because there's a few that have come up. I'll start with Carlos. Carlos got a few comments, mostly, and I'll put up this one since he's been talking about Drew bringing in a lot of older players, and it's going to change the play and the speed. But when you bring in those types of guys we just talked about, obviously they're not going to be that part of the problem is the finesse play of the Rangers has been a problem. And speed is part of that finesse game, right? So
yeah, as one person put it to me, you have all these Lamborghinis, but you don't have any protection for them, so you bring in the Ford F-150s to protect them. Look, Buchnevich is a tough loss, but like I said, you have Goudreau and Blais to play together. Reeves won't play all 82 games. He's going to come into games when he needs to come in. Against like the Washingtons, the tougher teams, the Phillies, and stuff like that. But again, they did what they needed to do, changing their identity. They don't want to be pushed around no more. But if they get a cheap winger, that'll help them.
Yeah, and that's again, you bring in a new regime and things are going to change, right? Or there's no reason to bring in a new regime. If upper management felt and the ownership felt they were going in the right direction, which maybe they were, but they didn't think so, or this wouldn't have happened. Drury wouldn't be there to make these moves in the first place, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I thought JD and Jeff Gordon were doing a good job. They were on the right trajectory. They had everything in place. They were moving along nicely. You know, but now, as we said before, it's playoffs or bust for this team, and it's on James Dolan if they don't make the playoffs this year because everything was going smoothly.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want to be a little tougher to play against, but you have the right coach with Gerard Gallant. Reeves played for Gallant his first year in Vegas. Every team that's got rid of him, has traded Reeves away, has regretted it. Pittsburgh has regretted it. Vegas most likely will. So it's a good addition for the Rangers.
I will also bring up, let's see, John was asking a couple questions. I'm going to leave that Seattle question for a little bit. Let's stay on kind of on point. So let's go back a little bit to the free agency talk. So we talked about Fleury and not Carlos, but I'm trying to find it because he had a comment here a while back. He thinks Vegas trading Fleury was a mistake. Now, the trade with Fleury is one thing. And again, whether he continues to play or not is still a question mark. In free agency, there was a lot of movement with goalies as well. Do you feel like it's odd? We talked about it in the college draft last week. Now we talked about it, with some trades, and now in free agency. It seems odd to see this many goalies moving around at one time, but what's your take on that?
I mean, right before free agency started, a lot of goalies were bought out from their bad contracts, like Martin Jones in San Jose, Braden Holtby up in Vancouver. So they hit the free agent market. Linus Ullmark goes to Boston because Tuukka Rask's injury. I agree, Fleury. The Vegas thing with Fleury was a mistake. I think they picked the wrong guy. But the thing is, ever since Pete DeBoer got to Vegas, he's not been a Fleury guy. He's been a Robin Leonard guy. When they traded him, he took over for Fleury last year. They signed him to that 5-year deal worth $20 million. The writing was on the wall. You can't have two goalies on your roster making a combined $12 million in a flat salary cap or any salary cap era. Somebody had to go, and it was going to be Marc-Andre Fleury. And it's unfortunate the way it ended in Vegas because he really embraced it. I think it is a mistake because now their goaltending tandem is not as strong. They had the best tandem in the league. He had one more year left at $7 million. I think there's a way to ride it out. I understand that they want to clear cap space because they're trying to get in on the Eichel deal too because they need scoring. Goaltending and defense wasn't their problem. It was goal scoring. And every time they ran into a hot goalie in the playoffs, the offense went away. And that's an issue that they have yet to address this offseason. And I think the Vegas Golden Knights definitely took a step back this year.
It's interesting in talking with the goalies and staying on that theme a little bit. And it also carries into another question I had for you. The Coyotes kind of moved. I think they moved all three experienced goalies that they had off the team, but they've taken out all kinds of contracts this offseason. What's going? I mean, is this a good thing for that organization, or are they just like, I don't know, taking on contracts so they have cap space at some point? What's the deal there?
I mean, the thing is like the way Arizona is operating is not healthy for the league. The salary cap's at $81.5 million. They traded Darcy Kemper out, and they traded him to Colorado because Colorado needed a goaltender. It's a great pickup by the Avalanche. They're bringing in all this dead money, like all these guys, this experienced money, which is all going to be gone next year anyway. But the problem is they're only really operating, like their internal salary cap is like $65 million, and their real cash output is only $50 million. So it's really not healthy for them. They're really not doing much there. They really don't want to spend to the cap. I don't know what Bill Armstrong's, final end game there is, but the Coyotes need some help. They need to figure out a direction, and it's unfortunate that things hasn't worked out for Arizona. I know when they first moved with Phoenix, they had the Roneks, the Kachucks. They had good teams. They made the playoffs in 2 straight years. It's the problem is where that arena is located. Fans going is not ideal. I just think it's almost time to, Gary Bettman really needs to wave the white flag and say, hey, you know what? We tried as long as possible, and I think it just didn't work out. They wanted a downtown arena. They didn't get it. I think it's just time and face facts and time to relocate the team to Houston.
Well, there you go. Good call. They're good take there, I guess. Carlos, or no, I got a couple. I got a bunch from Carlos. Carlos is
on fire this morning.
He is. Oh my gosh. I had a question from John about Seattle I wanted to get up here. What are your thoughts on Seattle? He had a question about how competitive you think they'll be this year. Here it is right here, I think.
All right.
Do you think they'll be like Vegas? I mean, they didn't take on the experience that Vegas did for sure.
Look, no one's going to be like the Vegas Golden Knights, okay?
Right.
They're not going to Stanley Cup final the first season. I'm really confident on that. They're going to compete for a playoff spot in the Pacific Division because the division is weak. They got better when they added Jaden Schwartz. They have Alexander Wenberg. They have good defense. They have a solid goaltending now with Grubauer and Drieger, so they'll get some games in. They still have money to spend on scoring, and that's what they need to do. But I think they'll be very competitive in this team. They're going to be tough to play against. They have a solid defense. So Ron Francis put together a good team. Ron Francis is very conservative general manager, but they put together a solid team, and I like what they did. And they're probably not done yet. I think they'll get a couple of guys here and there to fill out their roster to make it a little bit more competitive. But in that division, with Vegas probably being the only lock, maybe Edmonton too, there's a couple spots open. So why not Seattle?
Yeah. John, backing up real quick, John says hockey in the desert doesn't work. Well, my only comment there would be people said that about Florida, too. Hockey wouldn't work in Florida, and it's done pretty well. It might take a little while to get a real foothold, but it's working out pretty good now.
Yeah, I think Florida definitely. I think, the success that Lightning has had, especially the 04 Cup, has done wonders. The Panthers, they're finally starting to put a good hockey team on the ice together. So that's good for them. I think you want the Panthers to be successful. Nashville hockey's worked out really well. Texas done wonders. Look, it's just not, obviously we talk about the micro level of the league itself and the teams in those cities. But, having played the hockey around the country and traveled to Florida to play and been to Arizona, California, the youth programs, the grassroots level has never been stronger. A lot of good hockey in Florida. A lot of good hockey in Arizona. A lot of players coming from different places, especially in that Sunbelt area. So Gary Bettman gets credit for, doing the grassroots stuff. It's just unfortunate that Arizona has not worked out the way they wanted it to.
Touch on it. Go back and touch on Ovechkin a little bit. Carlos thinks he's showing his age. Yes, he's up there, but you know what? There's been a lot of hockey players that have played in their late 30s.
Chris Chelios played into his 40s.
There you go. I think it feels like Jaromir Jagr's still playing somewhere at about.
He is. He's still playing. He's still playing over in Czech Republic somewhere.
Yeah, right. So I think Ovechkin's got a little bit of gas in the tank yet. And 5 years, is he going to be playing at the level he's playing now? Probably not. But in all sports, you don't get at the back end of these contracts what you get at the front end as far as performance. So.
Look, the 5 years is the extra couple of years is for Gretzky's record. He wants to break the goal scoring record.
Yeah.
If he keeps pumping him into it, he's not probably going to put 50 up every year. But, if he averages like 30 to 40 goals a year, even less than that, he's close to hitting.
He's a great man. He's a big name. He's one of the best ever, Ovechkin, in my mind. Gosh.
Yeah, Ovi's one of the best pure goal scorers I've ever seen play the game. Ever. Absolutely. I've seen a lot of guys shoot the puck. This guy can score goals from anywhere.
All right. So, listen, as far as free agents go, there's still a few good players out there. I mean, what else should we be looking for? After this flurry of the last week, there's still a lot to come. What else do you see playing out here in the weeks to come?
I think there might be a couple of trades. Maybe Tarasenko finally gets moved by St. Louis. Maybe keep an eye out. Obviously, we talked about Jack Eichel. A name I'm watching that hasn't been signed, which I'm really surprised, is Thomas Tatar. He's a solid winger. I played for Montreal last year. Didn't really see much playoff time, but he's a really solid player. Maybe New Jersey picks him up. Somebody gets him. But you're going to see, like last year, last year I say, after the Cup was over in the fall, you see it always like the first couple of days, the first day of free agency, everybody, like the contracts just come out. And then they slowly trickle in, and then the market resets itself. All right, who are we going to bring on in a PTO? Who are we going to sign a 1-year contract, league minimum, trying to play the salary cap game? A lot of RFAs still out there that need new contracts, qualifying, arbitration, all that stuff then that starts. So, I wouldn't be shocked if, I know he's a year away, but I have a feeling that the Rangers most likely will try to get a deal done for Adam Fox and get him locked up long term. That way they don't have to worry about the arbitration process and getting offer sheet and all that stuff. Because I just think, the McCarr contract set the market for him. So that's going to be good for the Rangers to do.
Who would you say, in your mind, who was the big winner? Who are the big winners team-wise this week?
I'd say New Jersey, definitely a winner. They addressed 2 areas of need. Obviously, the backup goaltender. I'm not saying that just because everything is behind me with my Devils banner and I'm a Devils fan, but they really addressed 2 areas of need with the backup goalie and getting a number 1 defenseman. They really, really needed it because they couldn't go into the year with the same backup goaltender and the same defense. They need to get back to their identity. If they can add a winger here and there, they'll be fine. I liked what Winnipeg did. They brought in Brendan Dillon and Nate Schmidt to, again, an area need defense. Even though they made the playoffs, made second round, their defensive team structure wasn't as good. The players that they had wasn't as good. Now they have a lot of depth on that team. Florida re-signing Sam Bennett, Vancouver with the trades they made, I thought they did really well. Obviously, I think a lot of the good teams took a step back. I think Carolina a big loser in this, to be honest. You trade away Nedeljkovic to Detroit. He was your future goaltender. You bring in Freddie Anderson and Antti Ranta. Now let me say, Freddie's a good goaltender. So is Ranta, but both need to stay healthy. And that's an issue. They lost Jake Bean. They lost Dougie Hamilton. They only bring in Tony DeAngelo. I think they definitely took a step back. Now they're still gonna compete for a top spot in the division, but they're definitely taking a step back. Obviously, once the Islanders announce their signings, they'll be fine. Boston keeping Mike Riley, that was a good solid sign up again with Linus Ullmark. Philly made improvements on their back end. I'm not sure about Martin Jones as a backup, but Tampa again, Corey Perry bringing up a solid backup and Brian Elliott. They have depth coming in. Edmonton, again, with their moves, keeping Tyson Berry and bringing in Zach Hyman and a couple guys. I think their defense is a little bit weaker because they lost Adam Larson. If they had done all those moves and kept Larson, I think they'd be in a better spot. But, again, another team, Montreal, they bring in David Savard, Mike Hoffman. They keep Joel Armia. Yeah, they lose Philip Deneau, but I think overall what they did, even though there's the injury factors and they may not have a couple guys to start next season, they'll be okay. So, it's so hard to tell because it's still July. I want to see preseason. Right. And when these things, then I can tell you, all right, this team's a loser, this team's a winner. But you could tell some teams took a step back this year, especially in free agency and the contracts that they gave and the players that they lost.
Yeah, good call. Listen, before I let you go, I got one story I have to touch on because it's always one that I'm interested when I hear these types of allegations. So the Sharks, Evander Kane's wife, has made allegations that he not only bet on NHL games, but bet against his own team. Is there any water going to be held in these claims, or is this just a problem with a bad relationship?
I don't know. I saw the story come out last night. It's so tough to comment on because I really haven't done too much research on it. I know, you go back to his days when he was with Atlanta and then with the Winnipeg Jets. You saw the photo with him in Vegas when he had the money up to his ear and the other stack of cash. I wouldn't be surprised if he did some gambling and had some issues, the quote unquote Pete Rose of the NHL. Mm-hmm. But I know he released a statement saying that he's flatly denied these claims.
Yeah, he did. Never, in capital letters, I never gambled.
But again, I'd have to do a little bit. I'm not going to jump to any conclusions on what may or may not happen. I'll let the league handle the investigation, and then I can make comment on it. But
that's fair.
I know, like I said, the pictures I saw of him younger days leads me to lean one way. But again, I don't know what's in He did.
That'd be bad.
Yeah, he did. He did file for bankruptcy.
He's not a good gambler then.
No, but the thing is with betting on hockey, it's so tough because it's not like other sports. It could go one way or another. But again, like I said, I'll leave comment for later on until everything comes on. But again, like I said, I could lean either way, but I just want to let everything, settle before I make judgment on anybody.
Well, we'll see how the story plays out, and we can touch on it down the road.
Exactly.
Anything else we should know before we let you go this morning, Jim?
Yeah. If you haven't checked out Mad Radio Network, please do. Last Word on Hockey show yesterday, 1 year anniversary. Really today, but we really couldn't do anything. But so yesterday, 1 year anniversary show. This time last year is when the playoffs, the bubble began. That's when we had our first show. Myself, Coach Jay, and Mark Weiss. Yesterday, just check out the show. I'll share it on the pages, and just please check it out. It was an awesome show yesterday. We went down memory lane.
Congratulations on that 1 year. I'm coming up on my 1 year as well. This next week, actually. So
nice.
That started at the same time. COVID brought us all together on the internet, right? So
absolutely.
And if you haven't sent it to me, send it to me so I can share it to the TGI Sports Talk page too.
I will.
So Jim. Thank you. There's a lot of comments I didn't get to, guys. Sorry. It's hard to keep up with all of them and keep Jim in some kind of rhythm because I know he tries to answer them when I put them up. So if there's any other ones you want to skim through there and answer, Jim, you can feel free. And guys, thanks for participating. Jim, thanks for coming in again. We'll catch up with you probably in a few weeks when we got a little bit of news built up again.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Keith, thanks so much for having me on throughout the hockey season. And we'll talk to you in a few weeks.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jim. Have a great Sunday.
You too.
So Jim Biringer from the Last Word on Hockey. I might have said Last Word on Sports last night when I did yesterday afternoon when I did my promo. So Jim's got some good stuff. Always brings his fastball. And perhaps he'll answer some of these things that I'll put this one up. They should put that up before he left. Sorry, John, I missed that one. But Jim does a great job. And thank you, John, by the way. While I've got you up, if you guys don't know John Gonzalez, he's been in our Sunday show a few times, but he is the admin for a sports page called the Sports Authorities, and it's a great group, guys. If you don't belong there, go join it. There's a lot of stuff. John lets me post my show. Jim's show is there. A lot of other shows from Northeast Streaming Sports are there, as well as other outlets and other great news. If present day and some nostalgia stuff too. John does a great job with that site. So thank you, John, for your support of this show and all the other shows and all the great content that you do put up. So great time. Good stuff from Jim again today, and we'll catch up with him probably in a couple of weeks and kind of see where we're at with the NHL. At that point, lots of news, guys. Good stuff. So take a breather. We're going to segue over to Major League Baseball. So we're going to talk a lot about the trade deadline here in just a bit, talk about how probably all the teams fared. That's good. And brings a slap shot, not fastball. That's a good point. I did mix my metaphors there. Thank you for catching that. And what do we got here? Bill, wrapping up hockey. It'll be a last comment. Bill, I think they'll get a tie with Tampa and Seattle. All right. Well, you guys ought to make a bet on it. Maybe Kane will take your action. I don't know. Oh, boy. And Major League Baseball, guys. Where are we? Let's just talk about, real quick, a couple of stories I want to get to before we jump into, and you guys got stuff you want to bring it up. John Gonzalez thinks I'm a great guy. That's one. Thank you, John. Gosh. Where was I? Lost my train of thought here. All right, Major League Baseball. Some big stories before we get to of course, the trade deadline this week was a big story. A couple of things that let's get them out of the way. Fernando Tatis Jr., bad shoulder surgery is on the table, and that would be a big blow to the Padres' chances here. They still are they're still not floundering in third place. I mean, it's hard to say a team that's, 13 games over 500 is floundering, but they're 6.5 games behind the Giants. They lose Fernando Tatis. It's going to be a big loss for them, especially after they got outbid by the Dodgers for Scherzer and at least Scherzer. I don't know that Turner was part of that trade, but we'll talk a little bit more about that going forward. Tyler Glasnow having Tommy John surgery. Obviously, he was probably going to be done for the year already, but certainly not good news for Tampa Bay, as they're going to lose him probably most, if not all, of next year, I would say as well. What else is going on here? We'll talk about that in a second. We got a little problem with the Brewers with a COVID situation. Strickland and Cousins, both pitchers, Jake Cousins and Hunter Strickland, test positive. They're in quarantine. Still around, guys, and teams got to be careful. And on that same note, Don Mattingly, Donnie Baseball, tested positive. He's been out of action for the Marlins. Padres are not the darlings of the NL West anymore. They haven't been for a while. It's funny. I suppose they spent a few days in first place this year, but the Giants have pretty much controlled that division from the beginning. They're probably the biggest surprise in Major League Baseball this year. They certainly made an aggressive move at the trade deadline to bring in Chris Bryant, who can play a lot of positions. And look he can play third base, where Longoria's had a good comeback year this year, and the Giants have relied. Their infield is not a bunch of young guys. Crawford's kind of old. Longoria's kind of old. Belt's no youngster anymore. And if we want to throw Posey in there at catcher, who's hurt at the moment, but they've all played well. And this is a great move, I think, for the Giants. Yeah, Giants. It's one of the biggest moves. Look at the Padres probably come out of this, and we'll go. I'm going to go division by division, but the Dodgers with a huge move to get Scherzer and Trey Turner both. And also the Giants, as we said, getting Chris Bryant. And the Padres kind of get left in the dust a little bit here with only some minor moves made by them. I'm an awesome, smart guy. Mickey just trumped you, John. I'm also smart. I don't know about either one of those things, but thank you, guys. I do appreciate the thoughts. Let's look at the standings a little bit. You know what? We'll look at the standings as we go along here. So let me find my stuff here. Let me find what I got. All right, let's take a quick look. We're going to go division by division. Major League Baseball deadline moves. The Red Sox. I thought the Red Sox weren't going to make any major moves. They did make I don't know what Washington's doing necessarily. I don't know what the Cubs are doing. We'll talk a little bit about that. I mean, the Cubs and Rangers, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's stick with the Red Sox. They pick up Carl Schwarber, but I don't know where they're going to play him. So, but again, I also had heard most of the things that I heard with the Red Sox weren't looking to make any major moves. They were happy with where they were. They didn't want to get any moves to risk their future. And before I get there, Padres did pick up. Did pick up. Or is it Frazier? But that's not necessarily enough, I don't think, either. I mean, you got Frazier and Cronenworth now playing first base. Frazier playing second base, Cronenworth playing first base. And, Cronenworth's a nice player and a good player, but your first baseman probably ought to be a little bit more powerful than that. But let me try to stay on track here. Red Sox did drop to second, as Rick points out here. And, I don't know. Again, I don't think the Yankees are catching either one of those two teams, Tampa Bay or Boston. But Boston, the Yankees probably, I don't know. Tampa Bay did a lot to improve themselves, I think. Again, back to the Red Sox. I'm sorry, guys. Prevagen. keeps Keith Engel on target, on focus. Look at the Red Sox, again, felt they were in a good position, not just now, but in the future. They're probably going to win one of the wild cards. So, again, I didn't expect them to make a lot of moves. I'm not sure why Schwarber would have been the guy that they bring back. They will get Sale back here from injury during this month, probably. But all of their other moves were pretty small moves. Robles from the Twins. Get some depth for their bullpen. I don't just think it's not much to get excited about as far as helping. Schwarber's a streaky player. He was on a historic run for home runs here a while back. But I think the Red Sox were happy to stand pat. Now Tampa Bay, they're very good at loading and unloading players and contracts all at the same time. They made a big move in getting Nelson Cruz. They've moved in the first place and they played pretty well recently, as we've talked about. 7-3 in their last 10. They've taken over first place by half a game and probably going to be, again, in a race with the Red Sox through the summer for that division and the first wild card. And the loser will get the first wild card. So what else did they do? They brought in some they did trade Hill to Mets, of course, which is kind of unloading guys. They've already had traded Adames to the Brewers, but they acquired some other small pieces. Now, I would say that they had a okay trade deadline. Nelson Cruz could be a game changer for them. The Blue Jays, I think they did a good job. Drew's going to say here that they may have overpaid for Berrios, but it was important. They needed pitching badly. Sorry, Drew, I'm trying to get to your comment here. I got the wrong mouse. They bring in Berrios from the Twins. Maybe they overpaid. I mean, maybe even bigger is they bring in Brad Hand, I think, from the Nationals. I think that's a huge move, to be honest with you. They also bring in a couple of relief pitchers from the Brewers. For some depth. They did acquire Corey Dickerson from the Marlins, who's, a streaky player. He's either really good or really bad. And Billy, hey, Mr. Awesome, change your headline banner. Oh, yeah, thank you, Bill. All right, thank you. Bill's my producer and director, but he he's slow. I'm slow to read his comment, apparently. I shouldn't blame him. Again, Drew thinks the Jays overpaid. I think these were two important trades for them. They are in win now mode, guys. They're not looking to win next year. They're looking to win now. I'm going to get to the Yankees in a second. Well, he's going to play first base, but he's not a good first baseman. He's a detriment defensively. I just don't know if it's a move that the Red Sox needed to get over the top. Schwarber is a great example, as is Joey Gallo, who we'll get to in a second, of the way the game of baseball is played today. Get streaky with home runs, you help your team, and you disappear for a month. And I'll throw in Stanton into that comment as well. Tampa Bay picking up Cruz was a huge move, John, for sure. Very, very happy. Well, not very happy, but for them, they're very happy to get that bat in their lineup. Rays just lost another pitcher to injury. Rays have had some bad luck with injuries this year. We'll get to the Mets in a bit. That was a huge pickup, but they should have gotten some pitching as well. But we'll get to them when we get to the NL East. So let's hold that for a second, John. But all good stuff. Let's get to the Yankees. We'll talk about the Orioles. The Orioles really didn't do anything. The Orioles are trying to rebuild their farm system. They weren't making any trades. They moved Sean Armstrong on to the Rays for cash considerations and moved Freddie Galvis out. He went back to the Phillies where he's been before. Nothing to get excited about there. Let's get to the Yankees. Two big moves. I got to give Brian Cashman credit. I have been very hard on Brian Cashman throughout this year, throughout the last bunch of years because I don't think Brian Cashman gets it. He had an all right-handed lineup. He did a really good job of turning that lineup around by getting Gallo and Rizzo. He really got both of them without giving up any major prospects at all middling prospects at best. And he got the Cubs and the Rangers to pick up the remainder of the contract this year for Rizzo and Gallo. That just doesn't happen. So I don't know what the Rangers and the Cubs are thinking. I got to believe they could have done better for both these guys than what they got from the Yankees. So if you're a Cubs fan or you're a Rangers fan, I guess we'll talk about your teams when we get to those respective divisions. But I think the Yankees did very well here. But do I think this makes them a World Series contender? No, I don't. Joey Gallo, nice player, great power. He might have 50 home runs if he stays in New York. But he's got holes in his swing. The type of holes that good pitchers find, especially in the playoffs. I'm more excited about Rizzo, and he's a short-term guy. Maybe they'll look to sign him long-term. Hard to say right now. He's a better defensive player. They're both better defensive players than what the Yankees have played in left field and first base all year. But I don't think these are moves that get them over the top. They need to address some pitching, and they didn't really. They've overhauled their bullpen a bit recently. But I was really upset that they traded Luis Cessa. Actually, he was pitching great. He was one of the guys who really pitched well out of that bullpen consistently. And they bring in Andrew Haney, who, again, this is typical Brian Cashman. I mean, he's a left-hander. Like he reminds me of A.J. Happ. It's the A.J. Happ move all over again. Although Happ was better, it wasn't good with the Yankees. And Haney's got a 5.6 something ERA. He's never reached his promise. Now, maybe a change of scenery, a new pitching coach helps him, but I just don't see it. I'm just not seeing it. Let's look at a couple of notes about this. Adding Rizzo's nice, but they knew they were too right-handed in March and no help for the pitching. I agree on both counts. Again, I've been saying all year, Cashman puts together a right-handed hitting lineup for Yankee Stadium, which has always been a left-hand hitter's paradise. Stupid. And Brian Cashman, again, needs to pay the price. I think this could get the Yankees into the playoffs. I do not think they're catching the Rays or the Red Sox for the division or the first wild card. I think they're playing for the second wild card against the Mariners and the A's, and whoever else gets themselves in the race. What else we got? Rays always seem to make the right moves. They do. I tell you what, John, and I know Drew's commented on the Rays here too. It's amazing what that front office does with the shoestring budget they've got to work with, and they put together a competitive team now year after year. For many, many years, it wasn't that way. They've done a great job in quite a while. Orioles hanging on to Means was a surprise. I guess that's a bit of a surprise. I guess if there's a surprise out of the Orioles, that would be it. They certainly didn't want to trade any other of their. They weren't trading Trey Mancini. They certainly shouldn't be trading Mullins. He's one of the big breakout stories of the year. So probably a little bit of a surprise there. Yankees. Well, look at. Well, so is Gallo's perfect for Yankee Stadium too. But again, you get a better player in Gallo. You can't. I don't think they could have bring in Schwarber, Rizzo, and Gallo, Rizzo, and Schwarber. And I got to tell you, while I still think those guys, I like Rizzo a lot. Rizzo's obviously off to a great start. Dave Guyette mentioned it earlier. 2 home runs in 2 days. Monster home run last night. He's off to a good start. And these two trades make the Yankees a better team. But one problem's been addressed, as Drew said, should have been addressed before March. The left-handedness, the right-handedness, or lack of left-handedness in the lineup. Depth in the outfield. But the pitching staff has not been addressed. Andrew Haney's not going to help this team, I don't think. Maybe I'll sound stupid come September, but I don't think so, or October. Also, the defense and the fact, well, you still got Gary Sanchez. I would have moved Gary Sanchez. His value is never going to be better than it is right now. I mean, it's not that high now, obviously. I think he'd be gone. If you think Gary Sanchez is making a rebound and he's hitting 220 or less, and look today what his average is. And also you got Torres playing out of position still. Bad errors all over the place. Last night, he's lucky he didn't cost him the game. I don't know what's up with Gleyber Torres. And maybe they should have traded him, but his value is not where it should be. He's not hitting, and I think you can attribute some of that to him playing shortstop. But he makes a play last night, which is essentially at second base because of the shift. It was a horrible play in the ninth inning. He's lucky he didn't cost the Yankees badly as they were hanging on to that 2-run lead and the dicey pitching out of the bullpen by the Yankees again make everything an adventure. But Torres makes it an adventure by first missing the tag on the runner coming from first base on a ground ball and then throwing it away, almost throwing it away. Rizzo almost makes a great play, but he makes a good play in keeping the ball from going into the dugout and then up a man on second and third. So they didn't address that either. This gets Luke Vogt out of the lineup. He's the odd man out here. I know they tried to trade him, Luke Voigt, but they didn't have any takers. And look, he hasn't produced all year, and he's hurt all the time. Got a bunch of other comments here. We're going to take a while to go through baseball today, that's for sure. We got that. We got that. Andrew Haney. John, you really think so? I'm not getting it. Andrew Haney's not that good a pitcher. You think throwing, I mean, he struggled out in Anaheim. How's he going to do when you throw him into New York City? Not that, he's playing a small market before, but I don't know. This just smells like A.J. Happ, Paxton, guys who just can't pitch here or can't pitch. I'm a Rizzo fan. He's a solid player and a solid person, and he brings a leadership quality to this team that I think is needed a little bit too. I mean, Judge leads in his own way. LeMahieu leads in his own way, but I think, he's a guy who's been to the playoffs a bunch of times, won a World Series, and I think he will help the Yankees a lot. I like Rizzo, and it's possible they try to re-sign him as well. They should have brought Schwarber in. Also, Gallo can play center field and Schwarber in left. Yeah, Gallo can play center field, but Schwarber in left would be a nightmare. He may Clint Frazier look like, I don't know. Who's a great defensive left fielder in history? Some nobody's popping in my head right now. But he makes Clint Frazier look like one of the best left fielders of all time. Oops, what did I miss here, Carlos? What'd you say? Brings everything but a ring. I'm not sure which one we're talking about. You trade Sanchez. I'll worry about replacing him later because, Higgy can play good defense. I'm not getting anything out of Sanchez offensively anyway. I'd prefer to have a better defensive catcher back there. With the rest of that lineup now, I don't need a lot of offense out of that position. Assuming Torrey starts to hit, LeMahieu picks it up. And I think LeMahieu will hit better with some fortification now in this lineup. I really do. I'm not sure Carlos, who we're talking about, brings everything but a ring. That could be any one of the guys we're talking about except Rizzo. And the Yankees need pitching. I agree, Carlos. I may have I know I touched on that, but with all of the other things I just mentioned about, the Yankees do need pitching, and Andrew Haney is not that guy, I don't think. We'll see. We can come back to that, guys. If you got more questions, just bring it up. But I am going to move on to the Central. The White Sox, who have a commanding lead, they're going to win that division going away. The Indians have cashed it in for this year. Terry Francona's done for the year. He may be done for good. I mean, he's had health issues over the years on and off, and I think it's quite possible we won't see Terry Francona back. But the White Sox were going to win this division. Interestingly, they bring in Craig Kimbrell from the Cubs. when they already have one of the best closers in baseball in Hendricks. And La Russa says there's not going to be any, closer controversy, but we'll see. Craig I can't say his name. Craig Kimbrell has had an interesting career. He's either been one of the best relievers in baseball or one of the worst, depending on the year and the team we're talking about and playing for. So, and they also bring in Cesar Hernandez to play some second base. He's a nice player, and obviously, when the Twins are trading within their division at the trade deadline, they've cashed it in for the year. Yeah, getting Hernandez was nice. Giving up, it is a little steep, probably, especially when you've already got a closer. But we see how important it is to be able to close out these games, right? I just had a bird fly so close to me. I'm just by the window. I already had one bird fly in here and commit Harry Carey this morning. I don't know. Maybe we got something in the air here. What we got here? Sox will make it interesting in the playoffs. I agree. Again, they're built for now. They didn't hire Tony La Russa to not win the World Series now. So Yankees have enough trouble making the playoffs. I agree. I've touched on that. Again, these moves don't change my opinion of what the Yankees' chances are here. The Indians' moves were head scratchers. Gave away Rosario, Miles, Straw. And I agree. Rosario was an interesting move. The Twins have thrown in a towel. As I said, they are not interested or even trying to win this year. And Rosario's a nice little player, and the Braves are going to benefit from that for sure. Yeah, it's all about money. Sox making money moves. Yeah. Well, again, you know what? That's what you do. Again, it's what shocks me about the Yankees and Rizzo and Gallo is that they were able to get them for marginal prospects. And their former teams picked up all of their salary the rest of the year. That's an odd move for the Cubs and for the Rangers. Anyway, I think a great job out of the White Sox. I think they'll be fine. And again, this fortifies that bullpen for the stretch run and the playoffs, more importantly. They're in the playoffs. The Tigers really didn't make much moves. They moved Daniel Norris out to the Brewers. The Tigers have made some great progress this year under A.J. Hinch. One of the great – again, they're probably not unless they get really, really hot, they're not going to compete for a playoff spot. But they have made – I thought they'd be one of the worst teams in baseball this year, and they're only – last I looked – they're 7 games under. They were 6 under when I looked the other day. So they played some great baseball here of late. Kind of fell back a little bit the last 10 games, but to get to 7 games under 500, they were horrible. So again, didn't expect them to do a whole lot. They're kind of in the same boat as Baltimore, only they're playing better right now. The Royals, did they give away Danny Duffy to the Dodgers? He's going to be a very valuable asset, I think, for the Dodgers, and it kind of went under the radar with their other big move. And they moved Solar to the Braves, which could be a benefit for the Braves. Solar hasn't done great this year, but he's got a good track record. And again, they were both going to be free agents, and probably they weren't bringing them back. And they were listening to offers for Merrifield as well. I know the Yankees were interested in Merrifield, but again, they weren't able to get the prospects back that they thought. And the Twins, they moved Barrios out because they couldn't agree to a contract with him. Thought the same thing might happen with Buxton. It did not. They moved Nelson Cruz out. They made quite a few moves, nothing that's certainly improving them. And they traded Happ out to the Cardinals. Good luck with that, Cardinals, by the way. They did get a guy who's had potential in John Gant, but has never really fulfilled that potential. But they got some bodies for the future. They're one of the huge disappointments this year. I picked them to win this division, and they are, 17 games out of first place. Good grief, right? See what comments we have here about the Central before I move on. Oops, start with Drew here. Oh, I got to go up here. Sorry, I'm going to go back to the top here. Kesar, Dump, Solar, and Duffy, we touched on that. Yes, not surprised. Both free agents and Kansas City, while they had a good run early in the year, they've really fell back, and they played well over the last 10 games. But again, they're at least a year, maybe more away. Tigers' lack of move was shocking, given a younger base. And the Twins didn't tear down that much except for Cruz and Berrios. So, again, if you were planning on winning this year, Berrios is a loss for the future. Cruz is not going to be around when the Twins probably are ready to compete again. They were looking to move. And guys, if they don't want to resign, you got to get rid of them, which I was a little surprised. Again, they did move Buxton as well. Tigers, I don't know that their lack of moves was that surprising, as I don't think they want to give up that to go back to I don't think they want to give up that younger base would be my opinion. Twins are a major disappointment. They're a major disappointment as far as performance for sure. As far as their trades, again, if you can't sign Berrios, you got to get something for him. We'll touch on that with the Rockies in a little bit. It's a great coach, tarnished by the Strohs incident. Does not tarnish in my mind. Again, AJ Hint's a great manager. Cora is a great manager. Biggest change in Boston this year, bringing him back. Say what you want about this whole incident. I don't get riled up. I just don't care. I really don't. Again, teams have been trying to steal signs for years, and they took it to another level. Did they take it too far? Probably. Again, but if you guys think that everybody's not trying to get an edge and do similar stuff, you got your head buried in the sand. Hinch is a great baseball mind and a better person. Again, so if you think that it's a big deal, then there's no way Hinch didn't know that was going on, but I don't care about it. Berrios should have gone to the Mets, but the Mets didn't offer the prospects that the Jays did, and that shame on the Mets. Shame on the Mets. Good point, John. I'm very surprised that Donaldson was not moved. I did think he would definitely get moved out in this trade deadline. He could still go. Remember, this is the trade deadline, guys. But guys can still pass through waivers and move and be eligible for playoffs if they get traded before the 31st of August. Or at least midnight, September 1st, whatever you want to say. So he could still go. Straight up Berrios for but again, Carlos, how the Twins going to make that trade? Because Conforto is going to be looking for a big contract as bad as he's played this year. I don't know that's. I would have made that trade in a heartbeat if I was a Mets, but I don't think the Twins would. Maton, Garcia, Graveman were all great additions to the weakest part of the Astros. The Astros did make some good moves, which will be moving on to the American League West right now. Since Drew provided me with a segue, let's move on to the West. So, Graveman was a good addition. Surprised the Mariners moved him. Their team is upset that they moved him. Their fan base is upset that they moved him. But a great addition for the Astros. And Montero as well, which Drew doesn't mention, I think is again good depth for the bullpen. Garcia from the Marlins is definitely a good move for sure. And again, they give up some depth from their organization, but this is a team that's ready to win now. Again, when you're ready to win now, you cannot worry about what you trade away. Well, within reason at the trade deadline, because you don't know how many of these guys are going to work out. I don't remember the trade that the Yankees made with Seattle. probably quite a few years back now, and I can't remember the catching prospect they traded, and I don't remember who they traded him for. But there was an uproar in New York that they gave up too much, and this guy, he never amounted to anything. So you don't know what these prospects are going to do going forward. So I'll get back to your guys' comments in a second. I'm going to go through. So I think the Astros did a great job because they needed some more arms and depth in that bullpen, and they got some great pitchers, as Drew points out here. The A's, great trade in getting Sterling Marte. If he stays healthy, he's one of the better outfielders in baseball. He can run, he can hit, he can field. He's got a little pop. And they give up left-handed pitcher Jesus Luzardo for him. I don't think that's that much. I know the Yankees were trying to get Marte before they brought in the other two guys. So I think it's a great move for the A's. They also got a little bit of bullpen depth themselves and getting Chafin and Dykman. Also, they also got Yan Gomes, which is he's a good catcher. Has had some good years, and Josh Harrison, who can play everywhere. And I think has had a decent year this year, if my mind is thinking right. Nationals, I'm surprised that they did what they did. Nationals always are buyers, and they think they can win. So they probably did the right thing. But given the weakness of that division, I'm not so sure. The Mariners, again, I'm not sure why they're trading away, half their bullpen when they're in contention for a wild card. Now they did bring in Anderson from the Pirates and Tejada to try to and Castillo from the Rays to try to offset the loss of Graveman and Montero. But again, if I'm the Mariners, this team is ready to win next year, and it's a pretty unpopular decision in Seattle, in the locker room, most importantly, and in and in the among the fan base. The Angels didn't do a whole lot, really. They moved Andrew Haney to the Yankees for cash considerations. And cash considerations. So the Yankees get more money for another guy. Yankees didn't go over the cap. They could still make a move here before August 31st. I didn't bring that up when we were talking. They stayed under the cap by all these teams picking up all this contract money for the remainder of the year. They did move Tony Watson out, again, for some pitching depth. But again, the Angels, one of the biggest disappointments of the year. And the Rangers, I don't know. I mean, they traded. The guys they got back in the Yankee trade, I don't think are going to really be anything. We don't know. Just like I said, I don't know guys are going to be good. I don't know the guys aren't going to work out either. But they did move Gallo, obviously. They moved Kyle Gibson and Ian Kennedy and Krause to the Phillies. Good job by the Phillies getting a starting pitcher and a closer. We'll get to the NL East in a second. Good move by the Phillies. Give them a chance to make a run at the Mets. So again, the Rangers had to get rid of Gallo because they tried to extend him and couldn't do it. He's a very popular player, very unpopular with the fan base, him going. I'm surprised they couldn't get a better deal out of the Blue Jays or the Braves or the Padres or any of the other teams that were bidding for him. So I'm a little surprised at that. So let's check your guys' comments out here. I'm a little behind. As we started with this, I guess. We'll start with this one again. I'll recap this. Yes, Astros winners. Agreed. Marte was a steal. Chafin and the National veterans were solid addition to keep pace. The A's, again, much like the Rays, are very adept at making these types of moves at the trade deadline, and keeping themselves in contention for the playoffs. Are the A's ever going to win a World Series the way they continue to play Moneyball? Probably not. but they continue to put solid teams on the field and have playoff hopes almost every year. And I think their manager, Bob Melvin, is one of the longest tenured managers now as well. So we'll get back to the Mets in a second. Bring that back up. I was a little surprised at Luzardo being the guy to go for Marte. But again, I think at this point in time, it's probably a good move for the A's if they want to make a run at the Astros here this year. Angels did nothing, trade away Watson and Haney with no help. And again, also picking up, this seems to be a theme, at least in the Haney deal. They're picking up that the remainder of that contract. Marte's a rental, agreed. And I think the A's know that. The A's aren't going to sign anybody long term for a lot of money anyway. But again, if they want to win, teams think they're in win now mode. They're going to make these moves. And you can't do it for free unless you're the Yankees and you get two guys. I don't disagree. Again, it is a lot to give up for a rental. Especially when you consider what the Yankees gave up for Rizzo, was a rental. Right? Marginal prospects and money. I'm sorry, money coming their way. Very strange move by Seattle. Don't know what they're thinking about. But again, you know what? That's a team that they've done a good job of rebuilding. I thought that Corey Seager might get traded there. There was talk of him going to the Brewers because they were looking for some offense, and that didn't happen. Mariners have 2 pitchers suspended for sticky substances. Again, that's another thing that, I don't get it. Who cares about sticky substances? Freaking, Rob Manfred. Anything that doesn't help the offense has got to be bad. Pitchers need an edge because they got no chance the way the rule book's written for them today. Mets, we're going to move there in a second. Seem to be hopeful. Starting pitcher, I agree. I don't think they're going to hope for anything out of Syndergaard this year myself. We're going to be moving on there in a second. Let me see. We've got a couple other comments about these. Marte should ask for less money and stay with the team. Marlins aren't ready to compete. They got some good young kids, but they're not ready to compete. And, Marte's, they're not going to pay Marte anything near what he's worth. I get your point, John, definitely, that Marte is a great player. I think a great player when he's healthy. Again, health is a big thing of this. So Marte's, Carlos is playing chess with us now. Remember Gaylord Perry? Absolutely, I remember Gaylord Perry. So don't get worked up about this stuff. I don't get worked up about the sign stealing thing. I don't get worked up about the substance, foreign substances. I just don't. Pitchers have every advantage. I'm sorry, my bad. Hitters have every advantage. We've gone through this over and over again. Just can't get that worked up. Let's move on to the National League East. I know we've had a couple of comments. I don't know that I'll be able to find them. I know I can find Drew's. I know, John, you had a comment about the Mets earlier, and if you want to put it back up, you certainly can so that I don't have to go find it. Mets seem to be hoping for a starting pitcher renewal. Yes, Carrasco's back. Did he pitch this weekend, Drew? I really don't want to go look, but I think he was scheduled to pitch this weekend. Big addition to the Mets starting rotation. Hill is a good addition. He gives the innings. He's not a great pitcher, but he won't, kill you either. And I like Baez. I don't expect him to get anything out of Syndergaard. I don't know that he's resumed pitching. He had a setback here 6 weeks ago or whatever it was. Now DeGrom's problems are looking worse. So Baez, yes, nice pickup. Can play shortstop while Lindor's out. He can move to second base after that, and they can move McNeil to third or wherever. So he gives the Mets some nice. He gives the Mets some nice depth there, I think, and flexibility, let's say. And Trevor Williams, while he wasn't having a great year with the Cubs, is potentially a good arm for their bullpen as well. And I did like, and they got a little outfield depth in Billy McKinney, although that's not going to be the biggest move the trade deadline. Rich Hill, though, could surprise and help them. You know what? Their season, in my mind, depends on Jacob deGrom getting healthy. I said when he got hurt, they should have shut him down then for a month. And they didn't. He missed one start the first time he was hurt. And the second time, I don't think he missed any time. And now it's coming back to bite them. So, not good. Let's see, we got some other Mets. Yeah. Well, 4 innings. You're not going to overtax him probably at all now, probably the rest of the year. He's probably going to be, like Jordan Montgomery for the Yankees and be a 5-inning pitcher. But the Mets have gotten, until recently, some really, really good pitching from Tawan Walker, one of the better signings of the offseason, bargain-wise. Stroman's pitched well, but they need deGrom, and they should have shut him down a while back. It's Dave Guyette got here. What team do I think made the best trade? I think the Dodgers. We're going to get to that in a little bit, Dave. I think the Dodgers getting Scherzer and Trey Turner was just a steal. I'm going to get to the Braves in a second. Let's see what we got here. Any other? Carlos says the Mets minor prospects, if it's good enough to move up, Baez was wasted move. I'm not so sure. I agree. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Again, he a lot of holes in his swing. But he's a good defensive player. He's got the kind of swagger, too, that will play well in New York, and he's not going to be overwhelmed like some of the prospects might be of the bright lights of New York in a pennant race. Just my opinion. Since John's talking about the Braves made some good moves. So I like Soler. I always liked him. He's not having a good year this year, but they did a good job in getting Soler and Darnold will be back. Duvall will be a good move. Eddie Rosario, I think, is a good move for their outfield depth. They somehow got Cleveland to take Pablo Sandoval for Eddie Rosario. And Cleveland's going to pay Rosario's contract. This is crazy. They did get Peterson earlier in the deadline time frame, and they got a catcher that I always thought was going to be good with the Giants. Never hasn't turned out very good yet in Stephen Vogt or Vaught. But I think they did well in getting Duvall and Rosario and Peterson and Soler. Will they replace Acuna? No. The Braves have been a big disappointment as well. I picked them to go to the World Series. So Ross is doing a great job. Yeah, I agree, Carlos. That team's been hurt offensively and pitching wise a lot of the year. A lot of big names on that IR. So he's done a very good job. Sandoval's immediate release, correct. So there's just trading salary, but it's amazing because they're paying a salary. I don't get it. I'm not a capologist, but I don't understand some of these moves. Braves mistake dumping Sandoval. I don't know. His best days are behind him. He could swing the bat a little bit yet, and he is a good player, good team player, a good guy to have in the clubhouse. But I don't think he was going to make the difference. Yankees should try to get a starting pitcher. Agreed, Dave. They still have some time here if guys clear waivers before August 31st, and they still have some cap space to play with. Braves will catch the Mets. I still think so, John. I've been thinking that all year. Hasn't happened yet. Let's finish up the East. I think the Phillies, and I think in some areas, some places think they did really well. Some places don't think so. I think they did a great job in getting Kyle Gibson and Kennedy. So they improved their rotation and their bullpen in the same trade. Plus, they get some bullpen depth in Krause. They give up some decent prospects, but nothing that's going to help you now. And again, the Phillies think they can win now. What's that division look like right now? The Mets with a 4-game lead over the Braves. The Braves, again, cannot get above 1 game below, 1 game above 500. They can't seem to get past that. But one good run can put them back in this. The Mets are fortunate. Yes, Rojas might be the manager of the year, dealing with all those injuries. But if the Mets weren't in the East, what were we talking about? I mean, their record's the same as the Yankees, and we say the Yankees are a big disappointment. Great job staying afloat with all the injuries, yes. But I still think they're ripe for the taking. The Braves are the team most likely to do it. The Phillies, though, really helped themselves with these deals. The Nationals, I think, I was surprised because they're usually in buy mode, but they go all in, trading Scherzer and Turner to the Dodgers, which we'll talk about. I think it's going to be the biggest. That's going to end up being the biggest impact of all. And we said already how they traded Brad Hand to the Blue Jays. They traded Schwarber to the Red Sox. They traded Daniel Hudson to the Padres. They traded Juan Gomes and Harrison to the A's, who, again, I think is going to be very beneficial to the A's, both of those guys, especially Harrison. Harrison can play everywhere, and he's having a good year. And they also moved John Lester, who's got a little bit of gas left in the tank, to the Cardinals. So they traded. They're in rebuilding mode right now. The Marlins, I think the Marlins did okay. They traded Marte, who they wouldn't be able to keep long term, for Luzardo, as we talked about. John Gonzalez mentioned. I like Luzardo a lot. I think he is another great addition to some great young pitchers on that Miami Marlins team. Trading Duvall to the Braves is not a big deal for them. They get a young catcher back. They traded Dickerson to who's a good player, but again, he's worthless on a team like the Marlins. So again, I think they did a good job getting more young guys. So, and again, they had to agree to pay a big chunk, or all of, I should say, Marte's the remainder of his salary this year. So a lot of that going on in these trades this year. So let's catch up on your notes before we go to the Central. The Cubs got rid of some very good players. They did, Dave Guyette, and they got very little back. We'll be moving on to the Central in a second, and I'll touch on that a little bit more. Phillies have plenty of talent to make a move in the East, and it could happen. It could. I'll be honest with you. Gosh, I'm not a big Joe Girardi fan. I wasn't when he was with the Yankees, and I think his teams play tight. I think that's why he only won one World Series with the Yankees in a lot of ways. And I don't like the way he handles his bullpen, and I don't like the way he's another guy who's got to go by the script. Drives me crazy when I see guys. Yankees did it, but I think Sessa before they traded him. You know, anytime I see a guy come in and retire 3 guys in, say, the sixth inning, they retire 3 guys on 5 pitches, and he's out of the game because his job isn't to pitch anymore. Stupid, and it shows lack of any feel for the game at all. And we got to go by our script, and that's what I think Joe Girardi does. And I think those teams play tight. But they do have the talent to win, for sure, as do the Braves. So some nice trades by the Braves, nice trade by the Phillies. Mets still need some pitching, I think. Drew thinks he'll get Syndergaard back. I'm not so sure. And DeGrom, again, could be the difference maker. If he can come back and pitch the bulk of his starts in the remainder of the season, there's only 70 games. I don't even know how many games are left. How many games are left? 70? Let me get to the I gotta do some quick math. Not even 103. There's only 59 games left. Marlins didn't do much besides trading 2 short-term outfielders for some bullpen pieces. Luzardo, I think, again, was a great move for them, for Marte. Nationals playing the Cubs in the ultimate irony, 2 teardown teams. Yeah, good point. Nats and Marlins are done for sure. All right, we're caught up. Let's move on to the National League Central. The Brewers. Well, early on, they had acquired Willie Adames, which was kind of their big move. They did get a nice trade from the Diamondbacks. They got Eduardo Escobar, which will help their offense, I think, a bit as well. He'll probably play second base. They acquired Daniel Norris from the Tigers. They acquired Rowdy Tellez from the Brewers, Blue Jays, which I don't think is going to have much of an impact. And then some other small trades. I was surprised that this team didn't go out and get another bat like a Seager from the Mariners, or even Donaldson from the Twins. I was a little surprised. Brewers have played great. They got the best pitching staff in baseball, I think. Well, maybe the Dodgers now with Scherzer, but I think they probably should have done a little more. I think they've done enough to win that division and without a problem. But I was a little surprised they didn't do more. The Cincinnati Reds acquired Luis Cessa and Justin Wilson from the Yankees. Wilson has had a rough year. This was kind of just the Reds didn't do much, I don't think. I mean, Cessa's going to help that team. I shouldn't say. Sorry, I shouldn't have said they didn't do much. I think Cessa will help them. Wilson, maybe the change of scenery will help them. I think missing Cessa will hurt the Yankees, and he could help the Reds. But I don't think the Reds have enough just yet. They got some injury problems now, and I don't know if this team's ready to go. There was some talk they would trade Castillo at the trade deadline, but that didn't happen. He's not had a good year. He's pitched better of late, but big disappointment. The Yankees were all over Castillo in the offseason. They really wanted him. The Cardinals, I'm not sure the Cardinals, again, I think the Cardinals probably should have been in sell mode, to be honest with you. I don't see that team doing better than 500. They bring in Lester. They bring in Happ. Nothing to get excited about here if I'm a Cardinals fan, to a team that's already struggling. 2 old pitchers with ERAs over 5. Let's see what Drew's got here. Brewers tinkering on the bullpen edges, but Escobar's a nice pickup, a little bit under the radar. The Reds did improve their bullpen with Cessa and Givens. I did skip Givens. I guess I can't ignore that pickup as well. But and Cessa I like a lot. I just can't believe the Yankees let him go. Yeah. Drew kind of echoing what I had to say here about the Cardinals. The Cubs, I don't know. I mean, I've seen them graded really high on their trade deadline. They traded Kimbrel and Mandergrill for Mandergrill, who's a nice player, and maybe that will work out and replace Baez. They traded Chris Bryant away. They traded everybody they had on the block. Rizzo, Bryant, Baez, Kimbrel. I will try to say his first name. Then I can say his name. If I don't try to put his first name with his last name, I seem to be able to do it. They traded Anthony Rizzo, as we know, to the Yankees again for questionable prospects. I'm not so sure about the return on this stuff for the Cubs. I've seen them graded as high as A plus. I just don't think it's that big a deal. So if I'm a Cubs fan, I don't know how happy I am today about these moves. They tore down the team. And I don't know that they really, I mean, what they did with the Yankees, in my mind, and we'll talk about a little bit with the Rockies in a second, they might better let Rizzo be a free agent, make him a qualifying offer that gets turned down, and get the draft, the extra draft picks. That's just me, but I don't get it. The Pirates traded away Adam Frazier, very nice player, having a great year. And the Yankees, I know, were interested in Frazier, and that didn't happen. And I personally think Frazier might have been a better addition than Gallo for that outfield, and he has some versatility. But again, we'll see. The Yankees are better. I don't see a lot else to get excited about there, though. I mean, they made some trades for middling players. Drew had some kind of comment here. Holding on to Reynolds was interesting. Yes, that is an interesting move by the Pirates. Again, they're a few years away from being able to contend. They did, by all accounts, have a great amateur draft, at least on paper. We know these things, as we've said already. It all depends. It's a crapshoot on all these guys. So we're gonna see. With the Pirates, but I don't really see a lot to get excited about there. Let's see what else we got before we move on. Drew's getting out in front of me on the Giants. So, yeah, we talked about big additions. I've talked already that the Dodgers, I think, had the biggest addition in getting Scherzer and Turner. I will say that the Giants getting Bryant is probably just as big because they are leading the division. It's questionable whether the old guard can hold up and continue to play as well as they have for the rest of the year. And Bryant also can play around the field. Third base, left field, right field, first base, maybe even center field. Great versatility brings you, plus a really good bat. So I think a nice trade for the Giants to fortify what is already one of the biggest surprises in baseball. Plus they brought in Tony Watson, who's always been a decent arm out of left, and he's left-handed, so he'll probably pitch till he's 50. If you can reach home plate and you're left-handed, you can pitch to your 50. Giants addition of Bryant at the last minute was a nice move, but it wasn't enough to counter LA. I kind of agree there, and they did want Watson back, maybe too badly. But moving on to the Dodgers, again, the big story. Both New York teams wanted Scherzer. Scherzer wants no part of New York. Number one. That's why he's not a Yankee or a Met today. It looked like he was going to the Padres early in the day on when was the trade deadline? Friday? Right? Friday? And then all of a sudden the tide turned and he's on his way, not just Scherzer, but Trey Turner is going to the Dodgers for 5 prospects. Dodgers also did a nice job of getting Danny Duffy, I thought, as well, who's going to add depth to that to their bullpen. Can make a spot start if he needs to. He's hurt right now, but again, I think it's a great move because they've still got. You put Scherzer now with Buehler. Oh, sorry. Clayton Kershaw. Hopefully he comes back healthy because he was having a really good bounce back year. Urias. They got a really good staff again, and they looked really deep before the year, and that all fell apart thanks to Trevor Bauer, who, by the way, Trevor Bauer is likely done in baseball in my mind. He's going to be like Ray Rice. With the Ravens a few years back. He will never play in the league again. Done. Sorry. So anyway, I think this is the move that really puts the Dodgers over the top, and I think they will make a really spirited run at the Giants, and it's going to be a great run. Still, I think three spots will come out of there. Let's jump on the Padres before we go on. They acquired Frazier, as we know. They acquired Daniel Hudson to help the bullpen a little bit. But that's really all they did. Now Tejada's hurt. I still think 3 playoff teams come out of the West. Rockies are done. Rockies have cashed it in. Another comment I'll make about the Rockies. Trevor Story's upset he didn't get traded. Teams are upset that they didn't get him. But if teams are going to lowball guys, again, that's why I'm surprised the Cubs did what they did with Rizzo, because the Rockies have said all along they didn't have to trade Story. They could keep him. They can make a qualifying offer they know he'll turn down and do better in future draft picks than they would do in possibly in prospects, and that's what they've decided to do. And the Diamondbacks, who are an absolute dumpster fire, along with the with the Rockies, pretty much just sold. As we said, Escobar to the Brewers is a nice trade for the Brewers. They traded LaCastro to the Yankees. Not much to speak of there. And a small trade with the Braves, sending over Stephen Vaught, who I like, by the way. There's something in my way here. Hold on. Let's see where we are. Gotta get back to your comments. We touched on that one. Dodgers getting Scherzer, not surprising. Cap be damned, yes, again. But the Padres were after him too. So that was the race at the end, was the Padres and the Dodgers. I know a lot of people thought early on he'd be a Met or a Yankee, but Scherzer has made it clear he wanted no part of New York. It's a good point. Nobody's talking about discussions, the ramifications for Seager. I don't know, what they do with him. Let's see. Let me look at one thing here quickly. Let's look at the Dodgers real quick. Since we're talking about this, and I knew we'd spend a lot of time on this. I knew I couldn't get to everything we were going to talk about today. So right now you've got Trey Turner playing. They've got Trey Turner in a depth chart at second base, and they moved Chris Taylor to the bench. That's what I see. So Seager plays, and Seager's a free agent. That Turner could be too. I'm not sure what Turner's. See if it's in this. I don't know if it's in here. No, it doesn't say. Not sure what his I'm not sure what his contract situation is. We'll see. But again, regardless, this is just the rich getting richer, and the Dodgers will probably be able to make a spirited run here. Padres made their moves early with Hudson and Frazier. Yeah, they're the nice moves, but Tatis and Paddock, good point. If Tatis is out, Padres are toast. I think. He's that good. He's that important to their lineup. Carlos mentioned earlier that they're strapped with they tried hard to get rid of Hosner's contract. But they've got some other big contracts, as mentioned, with Tatis and Machado. And obviously you got to pay Tatis. He's a kid. But Machado's contract and he's not the player that he was. But that hurts you, just like the Stanton trade hurts the Yankees. These guys have got to learn to stop signing all these guys for 6, 7, 8 years or 10. And you handicap yourself later on. Rocky's strangely quiet. Well, they said again early on, yeah, and Story wasn't their only trade chip, but he was the big one. And they said early on that they would not just give him away, that they would be happy to hang on to him and let him play out his contract and, take the draft picks. D-backs could have done way more for sure. I thought Marte would get traded. Again, he's hurt, and probably his injury situation is a factor, and he could still get moved, I guess, although I doubt he'd pass through waivers because he doesn't have that big a contract, I don't believe. So that's the other thing you don't know. Who's going to get put on waivers? Who's going to clear? You're still going to have some guys traded here in the next 4 weeks. Turner has another year left on his contract. Thank you, Drew. I don't know what happened to Ken Gifford today. Maybe we should send out the mounted police to the mountain there and check on it. So, guys, that's a recap in baseball. Let me just check and see if there's anything else I want to chat about as we wrap up Major League Baseball. You guys want to talk about anything else with baseball before I move on to the NFL a little bit? Put it up there while I'm checking to see if there's anything that I missed that I want to chat about. I don't think there is. I already talked about the injuries, talked about La Russa saying there's no closer controversy with the White Sox. We talked about the injuries. Talked about Schwarber. Says he's up to the task of learning first base. We'll see. We'll see about all of that. Interesting to see how cheaply short timers were able to be gotten. I agree, Drew. I talked about that again. I started out with Rizzo. Cubs basically gave him up for nothing. I can't see how they wouldn't be better off getting the picks like the Rockies appear to be ready to do. And Tampa Bay does take over first place. We did talk about that a little bit earlier. Half a game over the Red Sox. I wasn't a big believer in the Red Sox early in the year. They've convinced me that they're for real. And I do think the biggest acquisition, I said this on Mac and Jack on Friday morning on my guest shot there, that the biggest addition in the offseason to any team was Cora getting back into the dugout in Boston. In retrospect, I picked Boston to finish last. So, again, you can see how smart I am. All right, before Billy tells me to change my banner, I will change my banner to let's talk a little NFL. I want to talk quickly about Aaron Rodgers. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers, as you know, officially reported to camp. And I am sure Aaron Rodgers officially reported to a huge mess at Lambeau Field. Because I guarantee you he's got himself a problem in the locker room. I mean, he spent an offseason saying the team won't give him players good enough to win. So how do I feel if I'm a player in that locker room? I'm sure it's split. Half these guys wanted him back. Half probably said, get out of here. You don't want to be here? You don't think we're good enough? Get out. Same with the fan base. Guaranteed the fan base is half wants him gone. Fans don't put up with this type of stuff. You sign a contract, you should honor it. This constantly happens in sports. These guys sign for 4, 5, 6 years and then they're the highest paid player at their position or one of them. And then, 2 or 3 years down the road or less, the value of their contract doesn't stack up against the value in the market. And then they want to renegotiate. And it's don't sign these long. You want the security. You want to sign long term so you had that security. But as soon as the market starts to change and now you're falling below market value, you want to renegotiate. I could probably try that. I could go to my boss tomorrow and say, you know what, I'm not working anymore until you renegotiate my contract. And he'd say, it's really nice knowing you, and I'll give you a really solid recommendation for the next place you apply for a job. Aaron Rodgers. Oh, my gosh. Aaron Rodgers. Very nice. A lot of play on Rodgers' name today. Rodgers asks for Cobb and gets him. Nice to give up a bit for some bit players. Not right. That's what I've said all along, too. The other thing with Aaron Rodgers is he doesn't give anything back. He wants better players. By the way, he's surrounded by two of the best freaking skill position players in the league, in Adams and his wideout. Sorry, Prevagen's not kicking in today. Devontae Adams. Two Adams, right? What the hell? Good grief. Sorry, guys. Sorry for my mouth. I know I got this backwards. Now I got to look. Oh, sorry, Jones. Jesus. Devontae Adams and Jones. I do that all the time. I think there's two Adams there. I don't know who I'm thinking of. Kenny's a Packer fan, but hates Rodgers. And you know what? You know, it's funny you bring that up. I know I've mentioned on the show before, but I know a lot of Packer fans. And there's more than a few of them are not big fans of Rodgers because he's a weird guy, first of all. Second of all, he's a guy who will pass up easy plays, or what teams are giving him, in other words, to try to make a spectacular play. You saw it last year in the NFC Championship game. Tampa Bay gave him the whole right side of the field. He could have run the ball in the end zone. He didn't do it. Tries to throw for a touchdown. More spectacular play to be had. Now, maybe he doesn't make it. Hindsight's 2020. But Tom Brady made a living, and is still making a living, by the way, at taking what teams give him. But not Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers has got to make the big play. So anyway, big news there. I think Rodgers has got a mess. I think the Packers are going to have a tough time this year because of this mess. If maybe their head coach is strong enough personality to overcome this, but we'll see. He is very concerned about his stats. Yes, that's a good point. Throws the ball away. And I got to be honest with you, though, Drew. I mean, interceptions kill teams. So I'm more concerned with guys who take sacks rather than throw the ball away, right? Than I am avoiding interceptions, because you should try to avoid interceptions. But again, I don't disagree with your comment that he's more concerned with his numbers. And again, and also his reputation. So he wants to be known as this gunslinger. And he's a great quarterback. He's a great athlete. I'll be very honest with you. He can do things on the football field that Tom Brady couldn't even think about. But he's not a better quarterback. Not that. So I agree with that. A couple other things in the NFL. The COVID situation is, rearing its ugly head here. The Redskins. Sorry, gotta pay. The COVID situation in Washington is rearing its ugly head. They've got, I think, 9 guys now on the COVID list. Let's see. I don't have it here. Anyway, I think it's 9 guys. And their coach is really getting on them for multiple reasons. First of all, he made it clear to them. He ripped into them and let them know, you guys aren't paying attention to the protocols. You aren't doing the things to stay safe. And it's changed now, but Washington had the lowest vaccination percentage in the league leading up to last week when he had some things to say, because the man's a cancer survivor and his cancer treatments have left him more susceptible to getting sick than other people. So he was upset about that. And he got into a kind of a pissing match with, I can't remember who it was, cornerback. Again, his name's slipping my mind, but he made some really outrageous comments on Twitter and then took him down about how, Rivera blames his players for his bad life choices that led to cancer. What? God. But I will tell you that with the NFL's new situation, and teams will forfeit games and dollars if games can't be played because of COVID. This puts a whole new spin on things, and Rivera lit into his team to let him know that if this was closer to the start of week 1, they would have been impacted for 2 weeks. Yeah, they are. They were. I read it earlier, and this was like Monday. I think it was Monday. It could have been the end of last week, but that they had like only 40% of the roster had been vaccinated. Now it's got to be over 70, because I saw an article last night that said, I believe, 70. All teams had at least 70% had one shot. And again, I'm not saying guys got to go out and get a shot. If you believe in not getting a shot, that's fine, but you have to say, I'm willing to give up my career. And again, this isn't a political conversation. This is a health issue. I don't care. If people don't want to get a shot, they don't have to get a shot. I don't think there should be mandates. But the NFL's running a business. They got a right to want to run it any way they want. And here's the rules. And NFL teams are going to have to be very smart in what they do. All 3 Vikings quarterbacks in protocol. I was going to say the same thing. Kellen Mond, who I like a lot, by the way, and I think will be your starter in a couple of years. Rick, I know he tested positive. I know Cousins did. I don't think I knew about the other one. Actually, I think Cousins had a close contact, so he's in protocol. Yeah, you said protocol, right? I did see too that the and Rick, you might be able to help me with the name, because that name's escaping me today as well. They had a coach that left the team because of the new COVID regulations. The NFL's put down about all tier 1 personnel, coaches, front office, equipment people, whatever, have to be vaccinated. So he left the team, but I believe he's come back now, if I'm not mistaken. Crazy what's happening, considering they have a great team on paper. I think you're talking about Washington. I like Washington a lot. They got, I think, the makings of the best defense and a dominant defense. If they get good quarterback play, and I think Heineke could end up being a quarterback there sooner than later, they've got some nice pieces. Mickey Delaney, there's a lot of people don't give a damn. No, you got it. And I'm okay that they don't. But, if you're an NFL player making millions of dollars and the league says you should be vaccinated, I'm not forcing you to get vaccinated, but if you cause an issue for the league with cancellation of games, your team's going to pay. And so are you, because you're going to lose a game check. So we'll see how that works out. Military personnel take like 15 to 20 shots total at training camp and then get deployed. It's not get a vaccination and move forward. Yeah. Again, I'm not making a comment whether they should or shouldn't, but if they want to play football, I don't feel like it was Staley. I thought it was like started with a D, I thought. See if I can find it here quick. You may be right, Rick. I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just not ringing a bell with me, which obviously is not necessarily the end-all, be-all. And I thought I could find it quickly. Oh, here it is. Rick Dennison. Rick Dennison is the guy's name who had left the team, but he is now back. Santana. Dennison, there you go. Thank you, Drew. Oh, he's not on. Oh, he didn't. So he didn't get vaccinated. He's back as a non-on-site advisor. Interesting. What else to talk about? Carson Wentz is hurt and out indefinitely for the Colts. That situation will warrant some monitoring, I guess. We might go a little long here today, guys, because I want to touch on a couple other things. And I forgot to bring up something, so I'm looking for it right now. All right, so what else did I want to bring up here? Oh, Bill Belichick. I'll talk quickly about my Patriots. What do we got here? Oh, Vikings third quarterback is Staley. Okay, thank you, Rick. Wentz will be back. I know he'll be back, but again, he's out indefinitely. The guy's got a history of being hurt. And I like that move for the Colts. I think Carson Wentz, and we're going to get into the NFL a lot more, obviously, in the coming weeks. But I like Carson Wentz on that team. I really do. Let's talk a little bit about Bill Belichick and the Patriots. He went out of his way to point out that Cam Newton is still the number one quarterback on the roster, and I know Carlos is certainly happy to hear that. And hold on, Brett Hundley. Yeah, right. They should have kept Jacoby Brissett. Carlos is probably happy to hear that Bill Belichick's still saying that Cam Newton's number one quarterback, but again, I would not expect him to be saying anything else at this point. And I will say that Mac Jones has struggled a bit these first few days of real camp. But that's not to be shouldn't be unexpected either. And I do think that Jones still gives him the best chance to win, assuming Cam Newton doesn't turn back the clock. If I'm looking at a choice between Cam Newton of last year and Mac Jones potential, I will play Mac Jones. Now, if Newton can turn the clock back 6 years, 7 years, then I'm going to say, okay. Going to be a few $100 short. I'm not sure what that one's about. Cam could lead the AFC. Okay, so Carlos says Cam could lead the AFC East in passing yards. You've obviously forgotten who the quarterback of the Bills is. So I think that's unlikely. Plus, he won't be playing. You get and rushing for quarterbacks. If he plays that one, no, I'm still going to give that one to Allen. I just am. He's better. He's a better quarterback. Oh, good point. Let's see. What do you got in mind, Rick, while I finish up with Carlos? So, Carlos, remind me. So, I always keep forgetting. I got to write it down. We have a wager, and I cannot ever remember what it is. I know it's Cam Newton and Mac Jones. So, what's our wager, and what were the stakes? I didn't say he was better. I say they had more potential to lead his team to victories this year. That's all I care about, wins. If he can come in and manage a game and play better than Cam Newton played last year, and if you didn't see Cam Newton's serious shoulder problems last year, which are not new, then you weren't paying attention. Camshaft fails. So anyway, Carlos, type up what our wager was and what the stakes were, because you will be paying up. Rick's talking about a 1 year celebration. We do have our 1 year anniversary of, TGI Sports Talk 1 year anniversary is coming up here next week. This show specifically, Sunday show, didn't start till later in, I don't know if it was September or October. I started doing it full time. I would come on Sunday afternoons and do a little rant on something, which now is turned into my weekly vlog on Fridays. I usually do it sometimes Saturdays. Well, we'll have to do something. Margaritas, that's what I bet. Mac will play 7 games. Cam plays 7 and wins 7. Is that our bet? That's not our bet. Oh, you'll get me a Mac jersey. What do I get you? So You said he'll only play 7 games. And Cam plays the rest and wins 7. And I said Mac Jones will play more than 7 games. I get a Mac jersey. All right, Rick, let me check my schedule. Maybe we'll do something with a little 1-year celebration. We got a little time. We got a little play in there because my first live show on Fridays, my interview show was on August 7th, I think, last year. But my first real Sunday stream of consciousness show wasn't until a little bit later on. So we'll do something. No margaritas, though. Good grief, Bill. You're a bad influence, man. You get a gift card for the same value as a jersey. All right, cool. We're on. You probably have to remind me again. What else, guys? Oh, the Hall of Fame class. So we're going over a little bit. I'm going over just a little bit today. We're not going to get to any college football. Guys, I'll talk about it at the end. Crap. Hold on. The Hall of Fame inductions are this week. I cannot get to my list because nothing's working with me. I had something that had both classes here because there was no inductions. All right, guys. Anyway, let's do it this way. So this year's class for the Hall of Fame. Alan Faneca. Guard, Pittsburgh Steelers, New York Jets. Great player. Tom Flores. Great coach, underrated coach. Hold on. Yep, official jerseys. Yep. Okay. Great coach, underrated coach, Tom Flores. So congratulations to him. Coach at University of Pacific. He was a Raiders head coach for 8 years. Won a couple Super Bowls. Great coach. Kind of a forgotten and underrated coach. Calvin Johnson. What could have been? John Lynch. Great player with the Broncos and later on, I'm sorry, with the Buccaneers mostly and later on with the Broncos. Peyton Manning, not the greatest quarterback of all time, but a great quarterback. One of the great quarterbacks of all time, I can't argue. Bill Nunn, who was a senior scout for the Pittsburgh Steelers and helped put that Steel Curtain team together that won so many Super Bowls in the 70s. Drew Pearson, wide receiver, Cowboys. Overdue. Charles Woodson, great player. Two-way player at Michigan. Won a Heisman Trophy. Great player with the Raiders and even a better player. Well, maybe not better player. He was a good player with the Packers as well. Bill Nunn is certainly about time. I mean, you cannot. It's amazing the teams that the Steelers put together. If you look at some of their drafts from the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, it's amazing the Hall of Famers that came out of those drafts. And Bill Nunn was the guy who found most, if not all of these guys. Flores about time, agreed. All right, Billy, have a good day. Good luck. Win some money. So anyway, congratulations to all of these guys. And those, I think there's 2 days. So I want to look up 2020 because we didn't have inductions last year. By the way, Drew Pearson, I really hope to have on the show. I've got his phone number, and we haven't been able to connect yet, but I'm hoping to have him on my interview show soon. Who is the class of 2020, guys? Aren't they also going in this year? Am I wrong on that? Maybe I am. All right. Well, I thought there was more to go over there, but I don't have anything more. If I'm missing something, I possibly... He pushed off. Rick's got to be watching something I'm not watching. Guys, I had a lot more to cover today, but the baseball we had to cover the way we did, and I'm glad we did. I thank you guys for your input as always. The NBA draft, I'll wait till next week. There's nothing that's going to get old there. I will say Michael Westbrook to the Lakers, big deal. We'll talk more about that as the weeks go on. And we'll also talk some more college football. Don't forget, got a new show starting. You'll see a promo posted later. TGI Sports Talk College Football Huddle will be on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock. We'll talk about all the big stories. There's certainly no shortage of stories in college football, as we know, with the realignment, with the NIL. And we'll cover every week's games. We'll do some recaps. We'll talk about the rankings. We'll preview the games, the big games coming up the following week. So lots to cover. Oh, Drew Pearson. Now I got you. Give him a wig. Mickey, give him a wig. Anyway, Wednesday, 7 p.m., we'll start the college football huddle. TGI Sports Talk, college football huddle. Be looking for that. We're going to have a lot of fun. Probably starting on the 11th. Next week, Louis Tion on Friday. Great interview. I'm going to be taping it tomorrow night, actually. Guys, I want to thank all of you for popping in today. I want to thank all the groups that allow me to share this. Special thanks to John Gonzalez from the Sports Authorities. Guys, go join that group. It's a fun group. Supports this show and a lot of the other shows on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. John Gonzalez, thank you. Thank all of you for your contributions today and your comments. I love having fun with you guys every day. Let me put that up again. Guys, Keith Engel, TGI Sports Talk, you have a great Sunday. Stay dry. We're going to get some storms. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.